Hey everybody, this is Art. Thank you so much for joining me again on our Facebook Live. We are here every Thursday from 11 to 11:30, providing updates and information about what's happening in the community. Today I have my good friend Noah Marlier. He is the Prothonotary, that's right, Prothonotary in Montgomery County. And he's going to share some information about what he does in his office in connection with issues facing our community. However, before I turn it over to Noah, who will share some comments, and again, there will be opportunities for questions after he makes this presentation. But before I go there, I did want to share some updates about what's happening in the community. Number one, you may have heard, Mayor Kenny has announced that it's now time to get back to masking indoors. If you are indoors, wear a mask. The Delta variant is spreading and we've got to respond, not ignore it, not put our heads in the sand. That means it's time to mask indoors again. As I say each week, anyone who's not vaccinated, get vaccinated. Folks are dying who are not vaccinating. Last thing I heard was like 9 out of 10 of the people who are dying are unvaccinated. The other thing I heard and read is that 9 out of 10 people who are in the hospital for COVID-19 are unvaccinated. Those who are unvaccinated are allowing the virus to mutate, change, and therefore spread. So as a community responsibility, I encourage everyone who's not vaccinated and is eligible to get vaccinated. Obviously, we know those under 12 are not yet eligible. Second thing I'd like to share is this Saturday, we're having a tremendous back to school festival right out at Lonnie Young Rec Center. We've had this back to school festival for many years. We're glad to have it again this year in combination with regular fellows. Let me share a few highlights. Yes, the helicopter will be back. The helicopter will land and that will be a tremendous event. We will have Will Park, NFL football player. He will be doing reading aloud of a book. We'll have several authors, local authors, I think some as young as 8 years old. And they will have an author's exhibit and share what they have written with the community. We will have some live animals, not wild, but live animals, domesticated at our event. So we got a lot going on, including giving out book bags, including a lunch, including ice cream that's available. It's a big event. And I encourage everyone to attend as we get ready for getting back to school. Those are a few things I really wanted to share as we look to going forward this weekend. Today is 98. Tomorrow it's going to be hot. This weekend, but particularly today and tomorrow, please drink as much water as is available. Stay hydrated, stay cool. Try not to go outside if you can avoid it, assuming that it's hotter outside than inside. Some places might be hotter inside as well, but drink as much water as you can. Those are a few updates I wanted to share, and having done so, now I want to turn it over to Noah. Noah, assume that no one knows exactly what you do and take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Senator. I can't thank you enough for having me on. You are my state senator, and I am always unbelievably proud to tell people that. So thank you so much for having me and inviting me this morning. So my name is Noah Marlier, and I am the Montgomery County Prothonotary. So this is an elected position. I ran for it in 2019, and I had to tell people a lot how to pronounce my last name, Marlier, how to pronounce the position I was running for, Prothonotary, how to spell Prothonotary, which is actually pretty easy. Just think Prothonotary, and what the position was. So I run an office of about 30 staff members. The office is located, we have two offices. One is in Willow Grove, an annex office where about 3 or 4 of my staff are. But my main office is in the courthouse in Norristown. And the Prothonotary's office is where all civil legal filings, almost all civil legal filings, are filed and archived. What I mean by that is not criminal matters, that's a different office, not marriage licenses or deeds, but almost everything else. When you file a legal paper in Montgomery County, you're going to file it in my office. From there, whatever that filing might be, you might go to see a judge that day. You might be scheduled for a hearing a few weeks or a few months later. You may just simply file something in my office, and there might be a different route that it goes. But my office is the office where you file and where those legal papers are archived. Frankly, I think it's a really important office in the community. I think people need to know about it. And I'm going to go into some of specifically some of the things that folks, some of the resources that my office has. I want to give my website because we've improved the website. It's kind of a one-stop shop for a lot of the things I'm going to talk about and a lot of the resources. It's www.montcopa.org/97, the numbers 97, /Prothonotary. And I think the website's going to go up in our chat. So hopefully people can click on that. It's going up on the screen right now. So for any updates to my office, again, we've improved the page, and I think that it's pretty user friendly. We also have a link tree, what's called link tree on that website. It's a link to all our social media. It's towards the bottom on the right-hand side. You can see it there. And you'll notice I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. My outreach director, Al Watts, is on this Zoom call with us, and he's put together this link tree. It's phenomenal. You click on any of those icons, and then you can, from there, go to any of our social media pages. So yes, I am on TikTok. Not sure what that's going to look like, but we give some good announcements and some good resources, even on TikTok and on YouTube as well. So we can put sounds like the sound went out. Are you able to hear me? Great. I'm not sure how long I was talking there without being able to hear. I apologize. But the social media, you can click on those, any of those links and get updates from my office. And a lot of the things we're going to talk about, we do updates regarding these matters as well. So also on my website, there's a link for landlord tenant matters. And I'm going to go into that issue in detail, Senator, because I think it's a really important issue for your constituents and one that is certainly impacting some of your constituents. I'll go into that in just a moment. Also have a link on protection from abuse matters. So my office is where you would file for a protection from abuse. You would petition for that. Again, you don't come into my office and I give you a protection from abuse. You come in to file your petition to go to the courts to get that PFA, otherwise known as a restraining order. So I think that's an important resource for maybe some of your residents. Unfortunately, domestic violence has been on the rise ever since the pandemic. Folks are really struggling. They're struggling with the pandemic. They're struggling with the economic downturn. And that's something that's caused, I think, domestic violence to be on the rise. Name change petitions come through my office. And this is a very important issue, I think, for a lot of people. People change their name for lots of different reasons, but especially people in the LGBTQ community who might be transitioning. That name change is so important. It's their identity. It's who they are and who they want to be and who they want to be known as and what they want to be called. And so I think it's really important that folks know that they can petition to name change via my office. And I tried to make that whole process, at least on my end, a little bit easier. Obtaining passports. This is what I get calls for the most by far over the last year and a half. Unfortunately, we closed our passport services when the pandemic struck. That's the one thing that I have not reopened. Frankly, it's for health reasons and safety of my staff, safety of the residents. It's a service that can be provided in other offices. And so for a lot of the things that are done in my office, you can't go anywhere else. You can't go anywhere else to file legal paper, but you can go other places to get a passport. It's a tough process right now. The line's out the door, and it's going to be at least weeks, maybe even months. But you can go to a lot of your local post offices and get those services. On my website, when we shut down the passport office in my office, we listed out where else you can go. So at least when people come to my website and think, hey, this is where we get passports, they'll at least be directed to the right place. So that's a little bit, Senator, about what my office does. But if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about the landlord-tenant issue and evictions specifically. So with this global pandemic, it's been so unfortunate in so many ways. But the global pandemic, in my opinion, and I think in many people's opinion, has led to an impending eviction crisis. And frankly, if we're talking about an impending eviction crisis and mass evictions, you're talking about mass homelessness, because where are these people going to go? We're going to have people on the streets even more than we have now. I just thought I'd give some statistics that put this issue into kind of crystallizes it for us. 40 million Americans are facing eviction. 40 million. 43% of renter households are facing eviction. So, over 4 out of every 10 folks who are renting are facing imminent eviction, impending eviction. And the reason for this is that they can't afford. Many people lost their jobs, their spouses lost their jobs, and they quite simply can't afford to pay rent. They got sick. It's a major, major issue. There are 3.4 million renters just in Pennsylvania. And let's narrow it down to Montgomery County. And I know, Senator, you of course have some very wonderful residents that are just over into Philadelphia and Mount Airy and Germantown. I don't mean to exclude them. This is certainly an issue that is impacting Philadelphia for sure. I do have statistics though regarding Montgomery County because I'm a Montgomery County official. In Montgomery County, they're estimating that 23 to 47,000 households, not people, 23 to 47,000 households in Montgomery County alone are at risk for eviction. That's going to be a real problem. I read a quote from a law school professor down at Wake Forest, and she was talking about the eviction moratorium. So there have been moratoriums on evictions, meaning the evictions have been frozen in essence, most evictions, for about 1.5 years now, about 16 months. But she said without those moratoriums, she said, quote, we are not only risking widespread eviction and homelessness, we are guaranteeing negative health outcomes, greater unemployment, educational decline, and long-term harm for renters, property owners, and communities. And I think what she means by that, and that's Professor Emily Benford down at Wake Forest, think about where our children are schooling right now. Many of our children are schooling at home, or at least they have been. Hopefully, they're all back in school this year, but not all of them. There's going to be parents that certainly choose to keep their children home because we have that Delta variant that you were talking about, Senator. The numbers are back on the rise. And to protect our children, they'll be schooling at home. Well, if someone gets evicted, that school goes away. If there's a family that's sheltering in place, saying we're going to protect ourselves from COVID-19, what's the best way to protect yourself? Well, right now, I would argue it's getting that vaccine. And Senator, I couldn't agree with you more. But for a long time there, the most important thing was staying at home. If you're evicted, you don't have that shelter. It's a health concern. This is a major health concern. Unemployment. The fact is that folks that are evicted, how are they going to keep that job? I mean, it's hard enough for a lot of folks, to be working through this pandemic. That's all people want, right? People want to be able to live in their homes, to have a good job, to take care of their children. And a lot of the stress over the last 1.5 years, stressors have made it very difficult for people to do those things that they need to do and want to do and deserve to do. The other impact of evictions is that it tears communities apart. And I think this is oftentimes, frankly, overlooked, Senator. by politicians, not by you, I know not by you, but by many politicians, by many folks just that are out there that live their lives that maybe take it for granted. They own a home, they got a little money. A lot of folks, by the nature of renters, maybe they don't have as much money. They can't afford to buy a home by the nature of being a renter. And, so sometimes I think, people that do have money, frankly, take this for granted. They take for granted that they live in a community where people get to know each other. They're neighbors. They're there for a long time. There's roots. And when you evict somebody, even one person from one block, that can have a huge impact on that community in the negative. And I think we all need to think about that a little bit more. The eviction crisis is going to disproportionately impact people of color. People of color make up 80% of those facing evictions, 8 out of 10. And I think that it's really important that we don't hide these numbers. We don't downplay these numbers. We face this head on, that the Black and brown communities we need to be out there. We need to show the resources that are available. You and I, as government officials, Senator, we need to be reaching out and making sure that everyone knows the resources that are out there that can help them. Like I said, there's eviction moratorium has been in place for about 16 months now. There was a state moratorium Governor Wolf had in place. And then the federal government stepped in via the CDC. They said, hey, listen, this is a health crisis. We got to keep this moratorium in place. I want to quickly just note, I'm not downplaying the impact on landlords. There are some landlords that are really, really struggling right now. Not every landlord is the landlord that owns 2,000 properties. And, a lot of landlords, they own a house and they own one other house and they rent it out. And guess what? They got a mortgage on both those houses. So for 16 months, you do the math, 16 times however much that mortgage is, that's challenging on them too. So I don't want to downplay that, but I think the tenants, I tend to focus on that. I think it's because there's so much impact in our community when these tenants face eviction and the amount of people that are going to be facing eviction. So there were a lot of political pressures to rescind that moratorium or that freeze on the eviction. Politically, Democrat, Republican, but politically from landlords, very upset that this eviction moratorium is in place. And I can understand that. And also court challenges from landlord groups to that moratorium. So President Biden's administration was feeling a lot of pressure when that moratorium was going to run out at the end of July to extend that moratorium. And he did extend it to October 3rd. So we are still within that moratorium for the next couple months, at least. But he did narrow it. So I think he narrowed it probably, might have been some political pressures not to have it be a blanket moratorium, potentially. I get that. But he also was feeling the court pressures and the legal pressures. And I think he was narrowly tailoring that eviction moratorium a little bit more so that it would pass muster with the courts. And the way that it was narrowly tailored was it only applies now to places that are being struck hard by the Delta variant. Well, that includes Philadelphia, that includes Montgomery County. So we fall under that moratorium until October 3rd. So I think it's important that people know that. Now, one thing to remember, this moratorium is not a complete blanket moratorium on all evictions. If there's criminal activity on a property, someone can be evicted. Sure, you can't just do anything in your property. We're talking about a moratorium on evictions if people fill out a declaration form. And this is on the, I just got sent a link today from Your Way Home. It's a county program. It's a wonderful program. It has all sorts of resources for folks. And they just sent me a link today that talks about that declaration, how to fill out that declaration form, what it means, who can fill it out, and we'll get that up into the chat as well. But that declaration is very important because that declaration says, I've been struck by the pandemic in a really detrimental, negative way. I've lost my job. my income's gone down, my spouse lost their job, I can't pay my rent. I've tried to pay my rent and I can't do it, and I need a little relief. That's some of the big things that you got to show on this declaration, to be able to enjoy the moratorium, be able to stay in your on your property for a little while longer. So what have I done as Prothonotary about this issue? I've collaborated with the courts to ensure that folks that are being evicted at the local courts, they're sometimes called district courts, district judge, district justice. When those local courts evict someone, that they know how to appeal that eviction, because that appeal comes to my office in Norristown. And so we created literature with the courts that would be in every single packet that someone who gets evicted gets. They get that packet, they know exactly how to appeal that eviction in my office, or at least it gives it pointers and resources and some contact information for some good legal representation, and maybe reduced cost legal representation, free legal representation. The literature is pretty solid, and it gives that information. I'm really proud of that. And we worked with the courts to make sure that everyone who was getting evicted had that information. I've worked with the NAACP chapters and other community organizations. Like I said, you have to reach out to the folks that are being impacted by this issue. And 80% of the folks who are facing eviction are people of color. So I thought it was very important to reach out to my friends with the NAACP, the presidents. There's 6 chapters in Montgomery County, and other community groups like Aklama, the Hispanic community. Worked with the courts, worked with the county to spread the word about all the resources that the county has to offer as well. What does this mean, Senator, to us moving forward? Okay. I think that we all have a responsibility as elected officials to make sure every single renter who's facing eviction knows about rent relief. So here we go. If you're worried you will be evicted from your home, if you're worried about that, I want you all to contact Your Way Home. Again, they're with the county. It's a great program. There is millions of dollars of funding from the CARES Act from 14 or 15 months ago that was passed. Millions of dollars that was funneled to Pennsylvania that has not gone to renters, but is sitting there ready to go to renters to assist them. And frankly, and thank you for you see it on your screen now, the website for Your Way Home. Frankly, the money goes to landlords. This helps landlords too. It goes actually to the landlord directly, instead of going through the renter and then to the landlord. This is to help pay these back rents. And so if you go to Your Way Home, there's a lot of great information there. They have the ERAP program, emergency rent program. That's very, very helpful. I would go to Your Way Home. You see there 211. If you dial 211, text 211, you can text your zip code and you can get help finding some resources if you are worried you're going to be evicted. I would also go to the Housing Equality Center of Pennsylvania. The Housing Equality Center of Pennsylvania is a wonderful resource. Are you being evicted from your home? You're not just worried, but you're actually being evicted. Your Way Home can help. I would contact Legal Aid of Southeastern Pennsylvania. Legal Aid of Southeastern Pennsylvania, I've met with them. I'd say, and you see Housing Equality Center there on the screen. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Legal Aid of Southeastern Pennsylvania, I've worked with them extensively over the last 16 months to make sure that I understood what they can do. They understand what my office can do and the resources that are available. Just such a wonderful group of attorneys that will help you at reduced cost or free of charge. And so I would definitely recommend reaching out to them. I would also recommend, for the same reason, reaching out to the Montgomery County Bar Association. And you see right there on the Southeastern Legal Aid website, the rent and utility assistance right there. So they're there to help. But so is the Montgomery County Bar Association. They can help you find legal representation. Not everybody can afford an attorney, obviously. And again, if you're in a position where you're being evicted from your home, that probably means that you can't pay the rent. You certainly can't pay an attorney. And that's understandable in this really challenging situation we find ourselves. But we see the Montgomery County Bar Association website on the screen. Thank you for bringing that up. You can go there and seek legal representation that way. So that's the help if you're worried you're going to be evicted or if you're being evicted. What if you've actually been evicted at that local court? Well, again, you can appeal that eviction from your district judge, again, otherwise known as a district justice or local judge. You can appeal that to my office. But there's some really important things to know. First off, again, if you've been evicted, it's not too late to reach out to Southeastern Legal Aid of Southeastern Pennsylvania, the Montgomery County Bar Association, but you can also call my office. That's where we come, my office specifically comes in at that point where you've been evicted and you're appealing it. So a couple things to know. You have 10 days to appeal from your eviction, just 10 days. And everyone should know that when they come out of that district court, that clock is ticking. If to get some information on how to appeal, go to my website. It's up on the screen right now. Call the phone number 610-278-3361. Couple of things to remember when you appeal that eviction. There is a filing fee of $294.50. You need to include a copy of the district judge's decision. And you're going to have to pay 3 months rent or the arrears, whatever the lesser amount is. And you're going to have to pay rent each month to my office. That will be held in escrow while the court case is going through the courts. However, at the time of the appeal, you can petition the court to waive the filing fee and the 3 months rent up front. And you'd have to pay a third of a month rent and then 20 days later pay 2/3. But that's a really reduced cost. So you can petition the court at that time, and there's information on my website on how to do that. So again, Senator, I think the real takeaway, and hopefully I didn't go too long, I apologize if I did, but the real takeaway is my office can be a resource. There are resources out there for people that are facing eviction.
Thank you so much. That was a comprehensive summary of the assistance your office provides in Montgomery County. Do want to share with folks, this is a Montgomery County Solutions. Philadelphia has another set of solutions that we'll talk about at a later time. This eviction situation is a crisis as you have described, but I'm glad that you highlighted folks can call 211 because not everybody has internet access. You got 211 was the Your Way Home to get that was so important. And then could you share your phone number again? Share your phone number because I got to tell you, a bunch of folks have ups and downs with internet access.
Sure, it's 610-278-3361. And again, it's the Montgomery County Prothonotary's office. If you need to appeal that eviction, you call us. And we can't give you legal advice, to be clear, but we could walk you through the process of filing your appeal.
Thanks so much. And one thing I do want to highlight, years ago, I was at Legal Services. That's when I was a much younger man. But one of the things that you should all know, in Pennsylvania, to be put out of your rental apartment, it requires court action, a court decision. There are some landlords who may try to lock you out without a court decision. That's illegal. Call the police. It's illegal for the landlord just to change the locks on you without a court order, even though I understand that sometimes happens. There's a court process, and as Noah has said, even if you lose at first at district court, you can appeal within 10 days and hopefully get a better outcome. We're out of time, everybody. Thank you so much, Noah, for providing this information to folks who are watching. This is recorded, so individuals who may not have watched in this half an hour, they can watch later on in the day and get this same useful information. Your leadership is really appreciated. And I will say this to the landlords. All the rental assistance money will go to the landlords. So I encourage you to get tenants and apply for this money so that you can receive the amount due to you. Have a great day, everybody, a good weekend, and remember, it's hot outside, stay hydrated. Take care.